Hello, everyone. I hope you guys are having a great day. So, let's continuing on playing. As I had a really nice game for the last video. So, this game, I'm gonna play the Sicilian Dragon. Okay. All right. This is perfect for us because this is probably one of the hardest anti-Sicilian to ever exist. Um, the delay wing gambit. I'm pretty sure it has another name, but for now we're going to stick to that. So okay, so I will talk more about this opening after the game. I don't know a lot about this, but the best this is apparent. This is just the best setup against the wing gambit. So I'll definitely talk more about the game. Now there are a lot of setups I could go for. But I think I could go d6. And maybe I should go d6 instead of e6 first. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'll start with d6. Our opponent didn't go for the gambit and instead go for a kind of a weird Grand Prix. This is transposing to a Grand Prix, which also is a very hard opening to play against. So, no worries. We could throw in Queen H4 check, but I feel like there's kind of no good reason to. So we are going to play the Botvinnik system. This is called. Um, and now that we finish our Botvinnik system, let's see. So we're going to try to attack on the queen side as quickly as possible. Now, Queen E1, Queen G3 seems to be a very annoying plan. Um, but it's actually not that scary. So let's see. Let's see which way is the best for us to deal with. If we could go knight d4 and forcing a knight trade, but then f5 will just become stronger because pawn takes and knight e2, and we don't really have a concrete plan anymore. Now we could actually play d5 here. That's not actually a bad plan. And also simply negating this diagonal here. Okay, so let's see. b5, queen g3. F5 would definitely come at some point, but currently we don't have to bother. I think we're going to start with b5. I think queen c3 we are completely okay. So, okay, queen h4 instead. That is also fine. Um, the plan probably is knight g5, which is okay, I guess, and actually not that scary. So we could start. If we go knight d4, knight g5, h6, and where's the knight really going, right? But once again, knight d4. If knight takes, pawn takes, and knight e2, suddenly we just have to try to defend e5 by ourselves, which is not very fun. We could go knight c6. Um, Let's see. Um, because I know that if I play accurately, white shouldn't have an attack going on here. So the question is, how am I going to do it, right? So, I'm going to try knight d4 and see how it goes. I think it's probably a good time to do it. If knight takes, we're gonna take probably definitely with the pawn. Knight g5. Okay, now we go h6. Let's see if our opponent attempts to sack some pieces. Nope, we have. So we have. We have knight h3, which is a little bit strange. We could take on c2. The pawn on c2 is free. So. However, what our opponent has done is provoking h6, and now f5, bishop takes h6 is a threat. So we could deal with it by going knight c6, kicking the queen, or we could take the risk and take on c2. And I think since the theme of most of my videos has been simple chess, simple and solid, so I am going to go knight e to c6, trying to kick the queen off the h file because the queen cannot really stay anymore. And if queen g3 is play, well, look, guess what? We have replaced the knight on e7, defending f5 with a knight on d4. So in that regard, we are good. Okay. So we have queen f2, which is totally reasonable. And I think we're going to start with rook b8. Is rook b8 a little too slow? I don't think so. If b4, knight e2, or b4, a takes, knight takes, well, this pawn is very fragile. So we could strike with b4 right away. We don't even have to play rook b8 because our opponent gave us time to develop our knights, and our knights are actually really strong. So let's see. Let's do b4 here. And now with pawn takes, we're going to do knight takes, and we will have two attackers on c2. And bishop, if white plays bishop b1, well, we just achieve our goal of removing the bishop off this diagonal. And we don't really mind moving the knight back at all. So in that regard, I think we're good. Okay. So the knight will have to go somewhere. I think knight a4 might be a move to be considered, right? And then we have to keep in mind that c3 is potentially a threat against our two knights. So now we could actually play bishop d7, and I think I am going to do that. Bishop to d7. Let's see where our opponent moved the knight. If our opponent moved knight d1, well, that's fine. Knight d1, knight e3, probably a good plan. Knight to e2. Okay. So what our opponent forgets is that because it went knight e2, that accidentally undefends the c2 square. Now we could take with the b knight. We could also take with the d knight. It's just a matter of... If we take with the d knight, it's guaranteed that they have to take back. It's kind of true. Let's see. We don't have a lot of time yet. Somehow 10-minute games goes by really quickly. So knight c2, rook a2. Well, rook a2, knight takes e2, check. I think our opponent would just take back regardless. So let's take with the b knight. Reason being is that if our opponent doesn't take, we are going to take with check, and then we put a different knight back on d4. And if they take, well, it's the same as I calculated. The knight d takes, forcing bishop takes. And good chance our opponent would just take the pawn. No? Okay, that's a little bit surprising there. Well, in that case, we're going to snatch up this knight with check. And we're going to put back another knight, replacing it. And look at what rook a2 does, right? Rook a2 essentially blocks his bishop completely. So now white have to use two moves in order to make use of this bishop once again. The bishop is just a sitting duck, looking at e3, d3 currently. So in terms of now we have a fantastic position, and I don't think I want to go queen b6 because once again now queen b4 is a move. I think I am going to. Okay, queen e7, g4. I could go f5. Uh, let's go f5. Let's go f5. You know why? Because the thing is, even though going f5 weakens this diagonal, my plan is to hide the king on a7, which which is on this diagonal. And if you look, currently this diagonal is being blocked by this pawn, and our knight is in front of it. So we are good in that regard. Now pawn takes. I think okay, knight goes there. So we can go queen b6 now because there's no queen h4. Okay, king h1. And now let's go rook a8 because our queen also protects a6. We could, and now we could potentially look at bishop b5 if needed. Rook to a3, improving move, but that is a little too late at this point, I think. This is not an easy position to pull off, actually. I think I am going to play king h7 because I want to play f5, but I don't want bishop a2 check. Maybe I could just play a5, e5, allowing bishop a2 check, and then I just block with the bishop. But currently, if bishop goes to b5, I really like my position. Okay, our opponent decided to try to retransfer the queen here. So let's play bishop f6. If e5, we just drop the bishop all the way back. The bishop doesn't really do much on this diagonal anymore, so we don't really care. The knight is happy on d4. And e5 we don't want to take because we open up this diagonal. So bishop d8. Now it might seem to you that this position is getting harder to win. And yes, it's true. This is probably one of my biggest weaknesses is making winning positions very hard to win, especially open positions. I usually tend to close it up and play it safely. But the downside is when I'm low on time, I don't really have that much to do. Okay. Okay, I don't have much time, so okay, let's play queen. Maybe I should play queen c6, queen b7, but okay, that's fine. Bishop d2. Let's play bishop c7 here. Let's force our opponent to do something about this pawn. Bishop d takes c6. It's fine. Now we probably will start trying threatening this. Okay, let's go knight b5. Now we get rid of this annoying bishop. We don't even need to. Okay, let's play this a little quickly. Queen h4 might come, but we don't really care. Okay. Let's see. Let's open up this position. I have 10 seconds. I don't think I'm going to win this, to be honest, but hopefully. Okay, bishop b5. I'm fine. Okay, let's play this. Oh, if we just take this, I'll probably just lose. Okay. Oh man. Well, I lost a lot of game due to flagging. This is this is going to happen a lot until I actually start improving. But okay, that was just simply a maiden one. I don't know why he was. He was really. I guess he was thinking that I would never take. Like he would never take. So like I was trying to make other pre moves, and he just took this. That's a little sad. But all good. So let's go back to our opening. So A3. So this is what is this called? The delay. I know this is the delay wing gambit, right? It's Magarini. But it's most known as delay wing gambit. The wing gambit is A4 C5 B4, pawn takes B4, and then A3. And this is one of the trickiest opening again in all the anti-Sicilians variation. I faced this in classical myself, and even though I knew a little bit of theory, I still had a lot of trouble. So, you want to know theory, then this is probably a good video for you. So most people respond with knight c6, and that is not a good move because what happened is you try to keep the pawn this way, and after c3, knight c6, and d4. Now suddenly, uh, black has a white has a ton of compensation with the center. We can and d5 is actually not a good strike because of knight a3, and there's a lot of complications in this. And most of the time, black is very uncomfortable in these positions. So if you see the wing gambit in a3, right, the two best move that you can play is e5 or d5. You can go d5 like a Scandi type of opening, right? Get back the pawn, and that, I mean, you say get back the pawn, but white cannot take this because you have a fork, and most likely white is going to try to decline it with e5, and after queen c, say something like queen c7 or knight c6. Let's say knight c6 is play, and d4. Which now you look right. This is a better French for us. Now we can just play queen b6, and suddenly this pawn is protected a lot of times. And sure, you can argue the same thing, but the problem is you're attacking d4 and not just protecting b4. So let's say after knight f3, knight f3 runs into bishop g4, and then we still have keep the pressure. Let's say knight to e2. Now we play bishop f5, and now we can actually comfortably take the b pawn, because if you look, well, c3 doesn't quite do anything. First of all, it just loses the game. But second of all, even if it doesn't lose the game, even if you just go knight c6, well, this is still a very playable position because we have d5 and bishop f5. So, but anyway, let's go back to the game. A3 threatening b4. Oops. If we play knight c6 blindly here, b4 is going to come, and you don't really want to just accept it or allow b5, which is very annoying. The engine here says that black is better, well, purely because we're up in development and this pawn is actually not really takeable. But let's say we play e6, and after b5, see, now knight d4 is not a good move because that just traps a knight. And And here we actually need to drop the knight back, which, I mean, it looks really, really hard to play in human perspective. And so that's why this is the probably considered the best move and the most realistic approach to the delay win gambit. Because now b4 is played, now we play bishop g7, and suddenly, well, you're attacking the rook with tempo, right? So let's say knight to c3 is played, and now we can comfortably play d6 because our bishop is no longer on this diagonal. So now let's say pawn takes and pawn takes while we're comfortable because we still have a ton of control over d4. And this is definitely something that you guys can try to counter anyone that plays a win gambit, or the delay win gambit. So bishop g7, bishop c4, and then after these moves, it transposes to a Grand Prix. And the Bovnik system is considered to be very effective. I'm still learning this system because I mainly don't really play the accelerated dragon, because I usually play e6 first and then maybe tuck a bishop here, and then I don't care about f5. But this system is still really, really good. You just have to be aware of f5 ideas. So bishop a2, a preemptive move, just so that for the future d5 stuff. So knight to e7, and we castle. And okay, here we could actually play knight d4 already, but I decided to start with a6. And queen e1, b5, queen h4. Now knight d4 is also really good because once again, we want to actually move the other knight to c6, forcing the queen trade potentially, or actually no, not or, and we also want to see where this knight goes. If the knight takes and and then not pawn takes, we probably take with the bishop, and bishop takes. Now there's no knight g5 anymore, so I think pawn take is just not good. Let's see. Pawn takes is okay. Pawn take is still okay. You can still play something like this, definitely. But bishop takes is good because you just take with a free check, and then after this, knight c6 is completely fine. Rook a7 is a kind of an odd move, but after knight c6, now you look at this. Let's say queen h3 is play, and we drop the bishop back. Now f5, this actually isn't totally scary, because first of all, if you look, we don't actually have to take the pawn. Let's turn this off for a second. We don't actually have to take the pawn here. So because we don't, it's fine if we take the pawn, but the problem is, well, there might be potentially some sacrifice. But even though it doesn't work, there's a queen f6, and then after queen trade, the attack is over. But that's not the main thing. After this, white can actually try to just play down an exchange and try to play on. But the second thing is, the whole point of playing knight d4 and we don't take with the pawn is so that we can play knight to d4 once again. And this is why the two supported knights is so important. And because that when white plays a Grand Prix, what white gives us is the d4 clam on the board that our knight can just jump in whenever we want. And also because white hasn't played bishop to e3 yet, and now we play bishop e3, well, it doesn't really do anything because if takes, now we take with tempo, we take with a pawn now because we don't have another knight anymore, and we trade the bishop, which means that we have the bishop pair. So white plays knight g5 after knight d4, right? We kick with h6. That's completely fine. And apparently this is a lot better than I thought. This is -2 after knight takes c2. Wow. And f5 again, once again, doesn't do anything. It even recommends knight takes because the rook is just straight up hanging. So it wants us to trade queens. Now the attack is over. Yeah, now the attack is over, and the rook is hanging, and we up 2 pawns. So But after rook b1, I wasn't so sure what to do. But I guess, yeah, knight c6, queen c3 is good enough. But I decided to go for the safe route. I just went knight e to c6, which black is still a lot better. Queen f2 and b4. Rook b8 here, as I said, is still fine, but it's a little bit slow. And usually here we want to support b4 with something other than the pawn. Because b4 here we never want to take with the pawn. That's just not really good positionally. If you look now, the knight is stuck to protect, kind of stuck to protect each other, and you just took a very nice outpost for the knight on b4. So since we have the knight on c6 and we already have a knight on d4, well, we might as well do so. And white is not supposed to take here. It's supposed to go knight d1 because of this pawn hanging. But white takes anyways, and then go bishop b1. And now you look at this position, you're like, oh wow, what is this? And well, apparently here I missed a tactic because of this. So, and after bishop e3, this is a fork, and this is an easy win. This is really easy to win because white no longer has enough pieces on the board to attack. And let's say queen d2 takes, and then takes, and now f5 first of all doesn't do anything, and then we can also just tuck our king here, and there's no bishop on the board, and the knight here is very bad, and the knight here doesn't do anything, so we're just winning. But apparently I missed it, which is kind of sad. So I went for bishop d7, which I figured the best move was knight d1, and I was correct. So let's say after knight b to c6, because of c3, knight to e3. Now it's not so simple anymore because white has another piece supporting f5. So, but white played knight e2, trying to trade the knight, which just doesn't work because of knight b to c2. And once again, if knight d to c2, this pretty much forced bishop to the bishop takes. And the reason being is, if you look at this, the rook is trapped. Yeah, and these two squares are not available. It's all covered by black pieces. So this is forced. And then after this, I wasn't sure what's going on, so I didn't like this, and I didn't want to leave the knight here, although I know it is fine. So I went for knight bc2, and then he went right into the trap, which is rook to a2. And then now we just take, and f5. Okay, not the best move. So here we're still fine. We're still good. Did I mess up for anywhere for the rest of the game? So bishop f6 is okay. Bishop f6 here, preventing queen h4. I was going to go e5, and I wasn't sure what would happen after this, but apparently I guess I'm fine. Actually, this might happen. Oh, this, you take this. That's the whole point. But let's say here, and then you take on e4 and take on e4, and then you can't actually take on f4. Knight g5 is not that scary. Yeah, we just go king h8. I keep forgetting about king h8 or king g8. King g8 is also fine, but I didn't want to run into any of this. But I always forgot that the king always have h8 to go to, and the pawn on h6 is completely safe. Bishop takes f4, doesn't do anything. It's just not. White just doesn't have enough to attack, because we can actually sack this, not right now, but a couple of moves later when white moved the knight again, and we will definitely grab enough material in order to get enough compensation for the exchange. So when bishop f6, this is where I kind of ran out of time, so I start panicking a little bit. I didn't like taking, but I still took afterwards. I guess I missed bishop c7, and then takes. So I went queen c6. That was kind of a bummer move. Knight b5. So I was still better the entire game here, but I just had no time. And once again, time is a very crucial part. I should have went f4. I don't know why I didn't go here. Oh man, Queen g4. Oh, f3. That was wow. Somehow just missed f4 right away. The sack doesn't even work because you can't take this. You just can't. Oof. And if trade queens are trade on the board, well, it's not easy to win, but at least I still have something. The knight, this bishop is actually trapped, so I can just like play bishop c6 and then move it up the board here. But I missed it, and I thought he would play like queen f7 or something, or queen a6 or something, even queen g5 or something. So I didn't pre-move this, and I just flagged. Well, once again, I flag as always, but hopefully this the opening has been very instructive. I know a lot in the lower level, a lot of players do play the Anti-Sicilian. I don't know how popular the Wing Gambit is, but the Grand Prix is incredibly popular. So I really hope that I can give you guys this video has to give you guys some insight for you to learn how to play Sicilian better. I think that the Sicilian is a very good opening for all levels, and it is one of the sharpest opening in chess for a reason. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.